Hello and welcome to Knit and Crochet. My name is Carolyn and I'm going to make today my Great Aunty Pansy scone recipe. You will find the recipe on my blog at To Knit and Crochet at Blogger, and you'll also find me on Instagram as To Knit and Crochet as well. So what I'm going to do is start off with her recipe. Now she made this recipe, she was in her 80s, and she used margarine for this recipe. So what I'm going to do is that I'm using butter, and we want 2 dessert spoons of butter. So I'm just basically going to use what I've got here. That's approximately 2 dessert spoons there. So what I'll do is that it's at room temperature. She also used to like to melt it in the microwave for just a few minutes because new technology for her was a microwave. So I'm just going to do that. Now to this mixture I'm going to add 1 egg. Then I will add in 1 dessert spoon of sugar, and I use raw sugar, so once again it's just a heat spoon, and a pinch of salt. Now she did this because, my Aunty Pansy did this because she can no longer have the flexibility in her hands for kneading. So this is a great recipe if you have hand problems. And I just use a knife to whisk it. So that's all mixed there now. So at this point we add now 2 cups of SR flour. And I'm just using a basic white flour. You can use a wholemeal flour or a spelt flour. It would be very nice for this. It's MSR flour. There's 1 cup. Two cups. And we keep the flour handy. And then she adds 1 cup of milk. And take back the knife again, and we mix this to form a dough. And if the mixture is still a bit moist, I just sprinkle in a little bit more flour. Because we want a stiff mixture. So that's now forming a nice dough ball, but I think I'll just still add a little bit more flour to that. That's much better, right? Okay. So now I'm going to sprinkle some flour over the base, and I'm using my Thermomix mat, soapy mat. that out. So now, with a bit of floured hands, there's not much in the way of kneading here now because we've got a nice loaf, and I'm just taking out the last of the stickiness, whoops, and get ready to cut out and put onto a baking tray lined with baking paper. Now, this scone cutter was made by my grandfather, by my great-grandmother. She too had problems with her hands and using a normal cutter, or glass in those days probably. So this is roughly about 2 centimetres thickness of that, probably 1.5 centimetres. So there we go. So it's a nice dough shape. So I normally get out of this recipe about a dozen, depending on how thick I make them. Now when I place them in the tray, I place them next to each other. So it makes a loaf style more so than having them separate. Whoops. I might put that back in, it's a bit doughy still, so I just turn that around a bit. Press it down once more. Let that stick in. Some days I don't need as much flour. But the weather is strange here in Queensland at the moment. It's humid-ish. Can't get the house any cooler because that's 8. Nine. 10. 11, and we just roll this one up. 12. So I've preheated the oven to 200 degrees Celsius. I'm putting just a little bit of milk in the bottom of the cup. So I've managed to get my dozen out, and as I say, I push them next to each other, and it makes up a nice little loaf, and then you just crack them apart. So I just brush these. And just get the sides with milk. You can use an egg wash if you want to, but my father always used to use milk because it was handy. Get in between, and there we go, so they're all nice and glazed. So now I'll pop that into the oven for about 15 minutes. Normally on a hot oven you should do it for about 10 to 12 minutes, but because my oven is older it might end up being 20 minutes depending on how it's working today. So I'll be back. And while this is baking, I will then go ahead and do the chantilly cream. Okay, so here we are. Here are the scones straight out the oven. and they should sound hollow when you tap them. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to wrap them up in a tea towel, well, just so you know which country I'm from. Transfer it over, and be careful it's still hot. And then as we go to serve them up, we crack them open. Oops, so I'll just get a knife here. Just to make it easier. Oh, it's too warm. And I'll show you later on the texture of the scone when the guests arrive. Just set them up and have nice warm scones for afternoon tea.